let's check in with the listeners.
Hey, listeners.
Listeners, remember you can always reach us at the email address gamescoop@ign.com, just like Jake Banks did.
Are they viewers now?
Yes, but for tradition's sake.
All right,
Yeah.
Greg.
Just saying, man. You gotta upgrade sometime. Like
say
Saved by the Bell, the new class.
Let's check in with the viewers.
Hey,
You want to
viewers.
say that now?
Yeah.
I don't know. That just doesn't seem
How
right.
about Hey Game Scoopers?
No, well,
No? Weird.
anyway, Jake Banks writes in today. He says, "Hey guys,
Hey.
was just wondering if you guys could shed some light on something for me. Whenever a new console is coming out, I tend to think that games that are released on both the new console and the console it's just replaced tend to be less next-gen and more like just a prettier version. Is this true, or would there be considerable differences?" Now, he words
It's a
his email-
walkabout. It's just like you're reading, like,
I know,
you hear the
his
gears breaking.
wording is a little awkward.
I wonder if you could
We
shed some light
phrased
on
it
that
well
question.
back here, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bridging the
that's
generation
good.
gap.
Yeah, we came to that
Or
after
high
some
tech.
That's what I
talking.
did.
What he's talking about is, when a new generation of consoles rolls around, there are some games that are released on both the current and next-gen platforms,
right.
and sometimes they seem like they're just the same game. The next-gen version is just a little prettier.
Yeah.
He's asking if that's the case, and for the most part, yes.
Yeah,
that is the case.
so I've been covering the Xbox since the dawn of time, and when the 360 came out, I actually coined a term for this. You can check it at the trademark office. It's there.
I hope that's true.
You get a nickel every time someone says it?
Exactly. So here's the nickel number one for today. Hawkware, ladies and gentlemen.
Hawkware?
Hawkware. So
I think
Tony
I need some
Tony Hawk's American Wasteland.
American Wasteland, yeah.
Tony Hawk's American Wasteland was a game that shipped in 2005 for the Xbox, for the PlayStation 2, and probably the GameCube as well. I don't remember.
Nobody played Nintendo back then.
Anyway,
really different, night and day nowadays.
When the Xbox 360 launched in November of 2005, Tony Hawk's American Wasteland came out for the Xbox 360 as well. It was the exact same game running in 720p instead of 480p, and with achievements for $10 more. Same game, no texture difference, no nothing. You were paying $10 more basically for achievements. And so
Worth it.
we would come to find out that yes. But yeah, so I came to call this phenomenon Hawkware.
Nice.
That's
I like
good.
that.
I like that.
For
Tony
me,
Hawk.
the example's always Madden, right? I remember when
Madden,
when Madden came to 360, I didn't buy a 360
Do
at
you remember
launch.
that trailer?
Yeah. You're like, oh my
it's-
God, this is blowing my mind. This is gonna be the best Madden ever.
Madden
Target,
NFL, that was
target
06.
footage.
Was it?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
You've
exactly
done your homework.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
did.
I had to go to. I remember I had to go to. I
research.
went to like one of those places. I did an article for the paper I was working at. And I went to this place where you could play games, and they had like marathon gaming sessions. And I played it there, and I put it. And I was like, this is terrible. Like this is all. Their modes were missing. The
That's the
announcers
thing, right?
were horrible.
It looked amazing,
Yeah.
but features were missing that
Exactly.
were in the PS2 and
totally.
Xbox versions.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
what's going on
Gross.
here?
Yeah.
Yeah, the
So
one
that one didn't work
The
out.
one for me that always stands out is Gun, because I really liked Gun on
Gun is so
PS2,
good.
and then I heard it was coming to 360, and I was like, I'm gonna replay Gun, and it was the same game.
It was exactly the same as Tony. Same developer
Yeah.
even. It was
It
never
was Neversoft.
Neversoft. It was the
Yeah.
same thing.
Neversoft.
Achievements, $10 more.
Where-
Same game.
So it had like the higher res stuff, but even then it was the character models were the exact same. So having them in higher resolution kind of spotlighted.
Didn't go well.
They were not flattering. It kind of made the game look a little bit worse in some ways.
Right.
Yeah.
Play that game on PSP.
Another couple examples were Need for Speed Most Wanted, and then King Kong, Peter Jackson's King Kong, the official game
Yeah.
of the movie.
That was a big achievement game back then.
Two
Yeah,
other
you
games they
just finished it for
Yeah.
the for
Yeah,
the
yeah.
1,000 points.
Yeah.
There was also Splinter Cell Double Agent was a totally different game on 360.
That's a perfect
that's a-
counterexample.
yeah.
Yeah, that's where
I would love to see more of that this gen.
that was done by two completely different development teams. The lead platform on that was the Xbox 360 version, which was the only version at the time, done at Ubisoft Shanghai. But then Montreal did a totally separate current gen version, Xbox and PlayStation 2. Same story, different missions, and
basically a Chaos Theory
the current
sequel.
gen version was better. That's the hidden secret.
Yeah.
So history tells us that, yeah, for the most part, so when they're planning their launch lineup, they'll have a couple, 2 or 3 exclusives that are just on that next-gen system that are supposed to show off what it's capable of. But for the most part, most publishers out there don't get the development kits early enough to really create a game that's going to. Plus, the install base isn't going to be very big on the.
It's
new
about
system.
making money for them. A third-party developer has no allegiance to PlayStation 4 or to Xbox 720. They want to make money. So yeah, they already have this game. And how hard is it to port it over? All right, port it over. Whatever. I'll press the textures and let's just do it.
Yeah, I
we
think-
want to make as much money off this property as we can.
I think we're going to see a lot more Hawkware. Nickel.
You don't get paid by yourself. That's not all right.
Walk around saying it all day.
If I say it enough, it'll become true.
Okay, okay.
But yeah, I think we're going to see it a lot more with this transition than we did going from last gen to this gen, because the stakes in development now have just escalated so much. Development costs are so much higher, and we're seeing just so much. We're seeing developers shut down when games sell a couple million copies, and sorry, that wasn't enough.
We missed our projections. 6 million wasn't enough.
So I think we're going to see a lot. To the reader's question, the viewer's point, I don't think we're going to see this next generation's potential fully tapped for at least a couple of years.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is because the visual disparity between current gen and next gen isn't going to be that much. I mean, it will be noticeable, but not to the degree of PlayStation 2 to PlayStation 3.
Sure.
No. You can only go from the standard def era to the high def era once.
Exactly.
The real question, I think, is like for tech. When we're talking about like Watch Dogs, right? Everything they show for Watch Dogs and talk about Watch Dogs is, you're going to be able to use your iPad to spy on your friends while they're playing and do this, and this is happening, and it sounds awesome, but that sounds super next gen. That sounds like the PlayStation 4.
Well, you know what it sounds like is always online. It sounds very similar to this thing that everyone is up in arms about right now, which is are the next gen consoles going to be always online? When you look at something like Destiny, when you look at something like Watch Dogs, when you look at something like Battlefield 4, all of these games appear to be reliant on some kind of connectivity. Whether that's going to be the case, we'll see, but to your point, it sounds next gen, and that to me sounds next gen, always being.
And so, what does that mean for the PS3 and 360 version of that game?
Right, are they feature
everything you've been promised for Watch Dogs? Right, you're gonna sit down, you're gonna buy it on PS3, throw it in, it's gonna be like, nope, that's all.
That doesn't look like the TV commercial video I saw.
Yeah, I can't hack ATMs.
I was trying to come up with a list of a few games that we know are going to be coming this fall, and I couldn't come up with that many. There's Assassin's Creed 4.
Yep,
Watch
that's
Dogs,
the big one.
And we know
Battlefield.
You can bank on things like Call of Duty.
Exactly.
Well, there was that rumor that Ghost might only be for next gen, which is crazy. Which is crazy talk.
That is
They're
good.
throwing away money.
No way.
Yeah, Ubisoft and Activision typically support console launches pretty well. They have some.
They do.
EA does okay.
But then there's Destiny. Destiny is sort of a unique example, I think, right? Like, I think from the beginning it was planned to sort of live on both ecosystems, right?
Yeah. From what I can gather, and this is just my own speculation, I think the game experience will be pretty well the same on both, but I do think that the technology is going to be it's going to look and run at barely acceptable levels on 360 and PS3 because really this is a franchise for the next 10 years. And the 360 and PS3 are just sort of going to be around
when that game
for
comes
the next
out,
couple.
When that game comes out, the Xbox 360 will be 8 years old.
Yeah.
How crazy is that?
Right? Yeah.
8-year-old tech. These people are still making games for it. And Ubisoft is very open. I talked to Ubisoft, and they said that we will continue to make games for the current gen after the next gen is out, because there's money there.
Right.
Yeah.
PlayStation 2 games continue to sell even after PlayStation 3 was out.
Right, and again, it goes back to the stakes being so high in developing and publishing now. You're not going to see a situation where, with Microsoft, where the Xbox One, even up to the end, they were taking a loss on every box sold. So they cut the original Xbox off at the knees on purpose. They said, okay, well, no more games for this thing, we're done. But this time, the 360 is on autopilot, and it is a service-based machine as well as a games machine. It's definitely going to live on for the next few years, and we will see games for it. But yeah, I think it's going to take a year or two before we get more than just high-res port-ups by and large.
Right.
Yeah, with E3 coming up in the not-too-distant future, we'll know what games are going to be coming out this fall, and we'll start being able to put together a list of what Hawkware will be.
There you go. Now there's a nickel.
Making that money.
My kid's going to go to a great college. I can tell already.
The old nickel college.
It's interesting when I was doing some research for this. I looked back at the PlayStation 2 launch, and at that time there was a lot of games that were released, and most of them were exclusive to PlayStation 2. They weren't like Hawkware ports that were both PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2. I think sometime during that generation, some business-minded person at Microsoft or publishers were like, not many people are going to have a 360 at launch. Let's just put the game out for both systems. So I think that's a relatively new development.
It is. You're right. It is. The corporate mentality, the strategy has definitely changed.
Well, at the PlayStation 2 launch, if you want to keep on the Tony Hawk example, Tony Hawk 3, I think Tony Hawk 3 came out around that time, was a completely different game on PS2, GameCube, and Xbox than it was on PS1, because they kept releasing Tony Hawk 3 and 4 on the PlayStation 1, and they were totally different. They were very traditional, just here's a small space in a skate park. But on PS2, it's like they were, for the time, like living worlds. There were people around. They were assigning you quests. You were in public places with people walking around a mall and stuff. It's like, what is this world? It's totally different for Tony Hawk, and they were very different games.
Thanks for the question, Jake. Viewers, if you have your own questions, send them to gamescoop@ign.com and stay tuned for more video game talks right here.
Here, somewhere.
Here.
It's moving.
Here.
It's all
Like
moving.
here, there, here, there.
Yeah.